My 18-year-old son's life is being damaged by a 28-year-old man, and I want to fight back and get him away from him. Original post hello and many thanks in advance for your time and ideas. I'm in hell right now and I need some thoughts. My disabled son recently turned 18 years old. He requires and consumes a large number of medications, as well as academic assistance. We are really proud of him since he does well in various settings and is on schedule to complete and go trade school with assistance. He is easily misled and feels uneasy around others. I desperately need pals. We've had a difficult time for years since he gives away his belongings and gets into bad circumstances. For example, someone offers to sell him rocks in a park, which he believes are polished gemstones worth collecting. He demands to see them. And when he discovers they are narcotics, he goes insane and is easily picked on. He will do anything to get along with others. That makes my heart hurt. We are working on it in therapy with individuals we trust, including the grown man. He's 28 years old. We will call him Quentin. He frequently lacks a place to sleep and spends his nights in parks in a tent, or our city will give him a hotel discount. He leaves his 2 pit bulls in the tent or hotel room while he works at a fast food establishment. They haven't been spayed or neutered. If he had nothing to do with my son, I'd be sorry for him and his animals. He first asked my son to work while he looked after his dogs at the park. My son is overjoyed to have a friend and be able to help. He also enjoys animals. He will spend at least 8 hours each day or night. I was in a park by myself watching these dogs. He would inquire whether he had taken Quentin's dog's dog food, toys, and blankets from our residence. It does not matter if we say yes or no. We would have said yes months ago since I enjoy how my son wants to help these dogs. When my son turned 18, Quentin told him that he did not have to stay with us. He may remain with him instead. For weeks, our youngster slept either in the tent with the dogs or on the ground in the park. He receives beer and bread from Quentin. While he works, our son will watch the dogs for entire shifts. He says he'll help Quentin obtain a tent and some coupons. Because my son has impairments and health issues, the cops are understanding. But he is 18 years old. The school is good, but he is approaching 18 and will shortly graduate. Previously, everything was going fine, so we had never considered medical conservatorship or anything similar. We do not take removing another young adult's civil liberties lightly. Quentin received a new room at the motel last week. My son came to stay with him after receiving a note from him. While Quentin was working, my kid sat in the room and watched his pets. I believe they smoked and hung out when Quentin wasn't present. We could text my kid, but he would respond that he is an adult and can go wherever he wanted. For a week, he did not take his medicine, attend school, work a portion of his part-time job, or attend any other crucial meetings. He cares more about being Quentin's friend than anything else, and he enjoys assisting his friend. He says, "Quentin is like a brother to me. I have never had a better brother than him." Quentin was booted out by his own family. They are close by. I have no idea who watches the pets while my son is not present. My kid gave Quentin his bike a week ago since he needed it more than I did. When our kid returned home yesterday, he had a complete mental collapse because he hadn't been taking any medication and had presumably been drinking heavily for so many days. His health problems are worsening. He was pounding his head on the concrete floor, and when we dialed 911, he spat at the cops, who then put a spit hood on him and held him down. It was dreadful, and he begged for assistance. We don't know when he'll be stable enough to go home because he might require surgery. He made sense today, grieved and apologized, but he remained convinced that Quentin was his friend. I also feel horrible since I know it is best for my son to not tell us everything. And when he is 18, he should have his own pals in life. I am looking forward to that day. He does have friends about his age, and it is more acceptable for them to hang around. However, the other children are preoccupied with different tasks, not around the clock every day of the week. And Quentin is. My son enjoys it when his phone rings and a friend wants him. What can I do to make this man's situation worse? Alternatively, make hanging out with my son too unsafe or uncomfortable. Please avoid doing anything that will harm or stress out the pets. They're not to blame, and my son will never forgive me. Some Oop musings. On May 9th, 2024, 4 days later, Oop responded to all of them. Commenter. It sounds like you may need to file for medical custody. I understand you don't want to, but it sounds like you have a valid cause, and it's currently the better alternative. Without assistance, I do not believe things will turn out well. Wow, thank you for this and other posts that have prompted me to reconsider conservatorship. On Monday, I contacted a lawyer. I had already researched it and got that information. He was hoped that it would not be required once safe job began and he had less spare time. Commenter, pay someone to be your son's friend and keep an eye out for him. To be honest, this person sounds like a con artist. A second fraud may be the only option for someone to progress beyond the first. It's unfortunate, however, there is a bot on Arwas that can recover scammers. In essence, they offer to return what you lost in exchange for a charge. While not ideal, paying someone to be your better friend and then telling him that his old friend is stupid would be effective peer pressure. If you wish to help the person create new friends, you can direct them to the appropriate sites. Out of the box. What wonderful ideas you all have here, and I particularly enjoyed the ones that followed this one in. This article. I asked some older young individuals to hang out with him, work out with him, and play basketball as mentors or fitness coaches. Make friends with kind people who do not want him to get sick. Thank you for this. It is possible for me in our location. Commenter. If it were my son, I would do everything I could to ensure his safety and well-being. I think you should just make this man's life miserable. Tell his boss about your difficulties with him. Inform them that he is peddling drugs or is unpleasant to the others. If he has a room, report him for drug dealing and making violent threats. Call the cops and report that his dogs are assaulting people in the park if he remains there. Naturally, all of this is done anonymously. You may go to the park late at night and set off a number of fireworks near his tent. Do this repeatedly. Make ruining him your life's mission. When it becomes too much for him, he will move on. My son also has autism, and I'm concerned about others taking advantage of him. I hope things work out for you. Out of the box. Thank you for this. I did contact his manager because Quentin is serving drinks to more than just my son's friends in the area. I also contacted the management at the hotel where he occasionally stays to inform them that this individual was allowing a needy youngster to stay there and miss school and prescriptions, which is against their policies. Quentin was not pleased when I contacted his motel employment. There were so many viewpoints that made me feel like I could do something to make his life more difficult. Yes, get your son a puppy. That's an excellent idea. Thank you to everyone else who suggested getting my son a dog. He has a medical warning service dog, as well as other dogs, a cat, and fish for pets. So it's apparent that he adores animals. He will leave the assistant's dog with us despite his dog's need for him, which crushes our hearts. The dog is safe with us, and we adore them. However, we do use his animal skills to help him in other aspects of his life. Speak to the cops once more. I just spoke with the cops again tonight. When they learn he is 18, they sometimes treat him like an adult, but as they get to know him better, some of them are more willing to help since they realize he is in difficulty. He's been busy. Yes. Son has an interview tomorrow at a facility that accepts animals. He'd stay occupied, feel like he's making a difference, and have nicer folks to hang out with in this type of situation. Say something, get rid of the dogs, to post about how they are being assaulted on Facebook. Someone has to step in and aid them. Take down the tent. Is he sleeping without permission? Get the police. Take Quentin out of here. He is not good for himself or others right now. There must be a large intervention for everyone involved. Cops are looking for you and your son. In motion, there is a lot to lose. Out of the box. I completed some of it this evening. Son returned home from the hospital last night. He is back on his meds and is in good health. He attends his school's special interest class and does well there. Surprise, he's back out with Quentin and the dogs while riding his bike. The park is closed because it is after 10 p.m. Quentin is setting up the tent. The man camping in the park near the playground was homeless and had 2 pit bulls. I contacted the non-emergency line to notify the police. The police moved him and then returned Son to us. Here's what I'll do. Also, I might hover over our homes near the park to inform that there is a homeless man with 2 pit bulls selling drugs and booze to teenagers in the park near their home. This will make it uncomfortable for him to be there. Thank you for the helpful tip. Reader, ask Quentin if he would accept cash and a bus ticket to get out of town. This would be the least messy method to separate him from your son, or a different kind of ride if you can fit a bunch of terrifying folks into a van. I respect and admire how independent you've raised your son, but it's time for him to step up. Thank you for this, Oop. After reading this, I went to find Quentin and paid him to leave my son alone and stop phoning. He declined, and then told my son that I had offered. He also informed my son that I was excessively concerned about him. Thank you for these. I'll block the number from my son's phone. We've stopped his number and given him an old flip phone because smartphones were too much for him to handle securely. But Quentin does not always have a phone. They utilize Instagram to communicate via video. They can also use anyone else's phone to communicate, access Instagram, and borrow phones. Follow him wherever he goes. This tip to crash every group was excellent. This is what I started doing tonight. Why was Quentin so angry? He said I was bothering him. He finally went, warning my kid not to follow him. If Quentin says I'm overly attached, son will repeat it. That's fine, I can do this every day. Very good advice. Change the post. This is where I requested for assistance a few months ago in getting a guy named Quentin out of my son's life. Thank you so much for all your wonderful suggestions and kind thoughts. My son has been healthy and happy for the past 3 months. We got him a temporary home with 5 other young men, 2 house managers, and a dog. He is maturing as he learns to clean, cook, and find work. It's like a dream come true therapy, daily gym workouts, yoga, and skating. The residence is around 40 minutes from Quentin's house, and my son goes there to meet friends, feel like an adult, learn new things, and keep himself active. They will also learn how to conduct their work. I did as much of what you said as possible prior to this happening. I spoke with the boss at both Quentin's workplace and the motel where he occasionally sleeps. They were told that Quentin allowed a disabled youngster to remain with him and provided him and several other teens alcohol. The manager has a small business in the region and took my information carefully. I also went to the hotel and showed my kid the notice that stated that all guests must present ID. He does not have one. I told the boss that if he did not obey the guidelines, I would contact corporate. I also contacted the non-emergency police number when he was camping after the park closed and leaving his dogs for the day. Police would move him along. Someone told him to be his best friend and always be there for him. I did it. Hey, I am here too. Quentin wants to visit my son. I'm at the park and at your workplace. I'm near to the motel. I even produced brochures to inform residents of the park neighborhood, which includes a playground for young children, about the tent, camping, and pit bulls that have not been spayed and are left alone. Quentin's anger grew steadily. He claimed I was following him around and that he was going to contact the cops. To be polite, I answered, "Please do, I'd like to tell the cops more about what you do with my son and other children who are not secure." I told him, if you want to be in my son's life, you can be in mine. The option is yours. After all of your aid and guidance, I felt really brave. I was prepared to keep on for a long time. Until then we engaged a lawyer, and I began looking for methods to assist my son with job training because he wants to help and feel like an adult. He worked in a drugstore for a few weeks as part of a program organized by a local group. It meant a lot to him to stock shelves, clean, and serve others. It also kept him occupied for a month, taking some of the attention away from Quentin. I believe Quentin was either bored of seeing me or afraid he would lose his job. One of the motels he had been staying at stopped letting him in on occasion, so he had to start using another one that was considerably further away. It is a longer walk to work, and there is a lot of labor. He must have realized that my son was not worth the stress I was causing him and stopped phoning me. Thank you very much for all of your thoughts. I had no idea how to cope with Q while attempting to correct things for my son as his mother. All of you were fantastic. A heartfelt thanks from the mother of a young adult son who is happy, healthy, busy, and has a plan. Some thoughts. Commenter, I'm glad things are going well for you, but I don't get why you're bringing up pit bulls who haven't been neutered in such a negative light. Right now I support spaying and neutering all animals because this country is struggling with homeless dogs. But I believe your argument was not brought up for the same reason. Oop, of course. Thank you for pointing that out. I also worry about the animals. One of the reasons I had problems deciding what to do at first was because of my son. I'd like to help Q and his animals, or at least direct him to where he could get help. Friends of mine work for organizations that assist people who do not have homes to live with their pets, who are frequently family members. Since the original publication, one of these dogs has given birth to a puppy. I also attempted to explain to my kid that he wasn't in charge of the dogs and that their lives were difficult for everyone. until it became evident that my son was in serious danger. It appears that I brought it up as another example of how the adult was not being responsible, and how the unsupervised dogs were dangerous to them and any other unfixed animals who might enter the park. The situation of the animals makes me sad, which is why my kid felt compelled to help so much. That is a horrible thing. I care about them, and I never intended to injure or terrify them. If anyone in Houston, TX sees this, the plan number is 7423. And I work for a non-profit organization called Esser Jobs. We help teenagers, young people, and soldiers get trained and licensed. Our goal is to create long-term financial security through training, job placement, and financial education. We receive all of our funding from private, government, state, and local donors. As a member, you are not required to pay for any lessons, certificates, or licenses. If you enjoy what we are doing, please look us up and donate. This will help us continue doing what we're doing. He works at Sir Jobs for Progress in Houston, Texas. You may find us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and any other social media platforms I may have forgotten. There are events in the community where you can assist us continue to help people who seek a better future. I apologize if this appears to detract from the original message. Many people are currently benefiting from our services, and we will do anything to help our people succeed. Even though my position is strictly administrative in accounting, I wholeheartedly support our organization and mission. Thank you, that's fantastic. Yes, an organization like yours helps us a lot, and I'm grateful that other people can aid my son while I can be his mother. Thank you for your efforts and time. Let's go on to story 2. I made fun of his girlfriend's kids for being racist, and now my father wants me to apologize to them. Please bear with me for my first post. I'll do my best to keep it short. My parents separated when I was 23 and my sister was 20 years old. I can't believe they stayed together for so long. It was such a horrible match. When they broke up, we both breathed a sigh of relief. Everyone became happier immediately away. Both our parents have since found other partners. It's been a while since I truly got along with my father, but we're still good friends. When it comes to being politically correct, my father is far less rigid than I am. Trust me, I am not even mere. He calls things stupid or things he dislikes gay people, fags, Hillary Clinton a poor president because she'd bomb everyone on her period, and he's upset that he can't use the N-word in public. I mean, he's the epitome of a lily-white man from the late 1950s who is out of touch. No matter how much I love my father, these issues will always disturb me when I'm around him. I've got no choice but to put up with them. It's also worth noting that my father makes some harsh remarks about women and LGBT people, but he never does so in public. He at least understands when to keep his thoughts to himself and his family. My father has been seeing this woman, let's name her Iris, recently. Iris has 2 children, aged 29M and 27F. Iris and I are not particularly close. I met her earlier this year at my father's place, but only for a short time because I was dropping off some items with him. She is new to my sister, and neither of us had met her children previously. My father really likes this woman, therefore he wants us, the kids from both sets, to get to know each other and the parents so we can all be one big family. Even though my father says terrible things about politics, he can be sweet on sometimes. Dad invited us all to dinner. Someone told me that my sister can be disrespectful to others, so I advised her to be polite. My father should be happy, and I did not want to disturb Iris or her children. We all begin to get to know each other as we sit down. My father took us to a Mexican restaurant because that's what our entire family enjoys. My mother is Mexican, and when I was younger, we always had the most authentic Mexican cuisine. Because my parents split up, my father is obsessed with taquerias in order to fill the vacuum left by my mother's delicious meals. It is also worth noting that, despite being half Mexican, my sister and I have relatively light complexion. Even though our characteristics are plainly Mexican or at least I believe they are. Everyone assumes we are white European due of our skin color. When we sit down with Iris and her children, they immediately start whining. These adults are outraged that Spanish is used on half of the menu. Each item on the menu was labeled in both Spanish and English. The descriptions were also printed in English, so even someone who spoke English could read them. My sister speaks quietly, and I speak Spanish quite well. We're both studying to be English second language teachers, but we attempted to block out the fears that were running through our brains. We had a wonderful talk with them before the waiter came around to collect our drink orders. The server ignored Iris's son until he barked at him like a dog, at which point he took his order first. Her daughter talked slowly and condescendingly, as if this man working at a restaurant for obese white people didn't speak English. "Thank you very much." But when the waitress went, her son replied, "I didn't expect the service to be very good. I don't even know if he could understand us, God bless his sweet spirit," even though those two people treated him like an idiot. My father had been here previously, so he urged me not to go. He said, "The service here is great. You're going to love this food. I recommend," but I don't recall what he said. As they attempt to reconcile, the son remarks, "It's not like I could understand him with that god-awful accent either." If these people want to come to America, they must learn English. Probably against the law or something. My sister and I are normally pleasant and friendly, but no one has ever suggested we are patient or tolerate idiots silently. We didn't want to argue, so we spent the remainder of the night looking at each other and speaking Spanish. I felt awful since Iris was ashamed, but it was enjoyable to be so small for the next hour or two while we ate dinner. We talked English with Iris and her children, but not with each other or my father. We spoke Spanish as swiftly and fluently as we could to those who understood but did not speak it. My sister would always bring up the fact that we were Mexican and grew up in a Hispanic household with our mother and extended family. After that, my father called and texted us. Mostly me, because I'm generally in charge of these types of events, and I implore us to apologize to Irish children for making them feel horrible, to make them appear awful. I'm sure my father had no idea they'd be so nasty to black folks. Maybe he wouldn't have asked them to go to Mexican restaurant, but I'm sure he doesn't believe what they said was racist. He stated things could have been worse, and you had no right to make them or Iris feel guilty. I agree, Iris was gorgeous. I should have considered her feelings, and I am all right with calling or meeting her to apologize for being so selfish and childish. But dang it, I do not want to apologize to racists for calling them out on their racism and refusing to take it lying down. Is that actually wrong? What shall I do? Are I also being a jerk about this? I don't want to offend my father, but I know he can't distinguish between racism and other things. Besides, I don't believe I should apologize for punching some racist adult morons. TL Dr. Dad's new girlfriend's children were racist against Mexicans and were unaware that my sister and I are half Mexican. To make them feel awful, my sister and I spent the entire night laughing in Spanish. Now, Dad wants me to apologize to them for making them laugh. What are you doing? What they say. Brown is still not free. Don't be sorry, that was funny. Taken out. He claimed it could have been worse. Yes, you can. You were wise not to confront them about their racism in front of everyone in the restaurant. Instead, you informed them in an indirect way that they have no idea who is listening or who will be wounded by it. Tell Dad and Iris that you understand her children's lack of knowledge says nothing terrible about her, but you believe they should feel bad about what they did and should not attend any future family dinners until they admit they were wrong and apologize. Taken out. Say apologize. To be exact. Changes. So I came back to let you know what was going on. My sister and I told our mother that she has always been much quieter than us. That made her giggle, and she wished she could have seen Irish children's expressions. She advised us to apologize, though, because she knows how upset our father can get over trivial matters like these. But that wasn't something we wanted to do. That's why I contacted Iris and asked if we could get coffee and discuss what had transpired. When we met for coffee, she apologized and said that her children get a lot of their humorous ideas from their Republican biological father. She pretty much played down everything, which leads me to believe she doesn't think what they did was wrong. She might just be sorry because my sister and I are of Mexican descent, and that what they did wounded us. Anyway, Iris and I were the only ones in a Starbucks. My sister wasn't present. She's quickly lost interest in what transpired. She has always been like, way. I informed them that I knew everyone had the right to their own opinion, and that my father had some opinions with which I strongly disagree. But I thought it was impolite of them to assume we'd be fine with their racist remarks, and it was embarrassing to be seen with racists. Iris was outraged when I branded them racists, but I refused to back down. In any event, she was at least fair and apologized again. I'm also sorry we made her feel horrible during supper. And while I may have ruffled a few feathers that cannot be straightened, I believe I have improved my relationship with her. My father has a different narrative. His persistent unwillingness to speak to me until I apologize to his girlfriend's children is growing tiresome. I made it clear that I would not tolerate it, And if he believed it was acceptable to be racist against his children, I would not hang out with him. Or worse, bring my mixed-race children or his grandchildren to visit. My sister just texted him, "Have fun with the racists, she's not very quiet." That is how things stand right now. The finale wasn't fantastic, but it wasn't bad either.